Annually, the building industry generates about 40% of global CO2 emissions. With record highs set every year, about 11% can be attributed to construction, while the remaining 28% is tied to building operations. In an attempt to reduce the impact of new construction, grassroots initiatives such as the Rotor Group in the UK developed Opolis, a platform dedicated to the reuse of building materials in the European market. Recycling and reprocessing methods of building materials currently face a few challenges in terms of widespread adoption, which include technical limitations on construction sites, reprocessing of materials, and the logistics that would facilitate access, distribution, and disposal of materials. The concept of large-scale reuse of urban materials is also known as urban mining, a term coined in the 1980s by Professor Hideo Nanjio of the Research Institute of Mineral Dressing and Metallurgy at Tohoku University in Japan. Today, the successes of urban mining are not significant nor very exciting, but by gathering multiple actors and grassroots initiatives under a single network, the urban mining chain can potentially be enabled at a district or national scale. Designers also play a crucial role in this process. Materiality and the deconstructibility of buildings is often at odds with the effectiveness of urban mining. The goal of this project is to introduce a system of collecting and cataloging the urban environment, turning demolition sites into public resources, and connecting all essential actors that can facilitate the flow of material reuse. By aggregating a multitude of data from the urban landscape and drawing from relevant concepts and research, this new model will enable a more material-sensitive representation of cities. This catalog system or model can be compared to existing building stock models for greenhouse gas emissions and energy performance assessments, with an emphasis on materiality. Just like typical BSMs, this model will need to establish different building archetypes in order to represent typical segments of the city. Paired with a bottom-up approach, constant changes in the building stock can be identified through active user feedback, providing additional layers of information. The integration of other existing systems of interdisciplinary processes such as BIM, free from legal restrictions, is also crucial to maximize information sharing among stakeholders. The ubiquity of BIM in building stock model assessments presents an opportunity to collect information on materiality. OpenBIM is an open-source platform which extends the benefits of typical BIM usage by improving the accessibility, usability, management, and sustainability of digital data in the built asset industry. By dismantling data silos and typical legal constraints around BIM softwares, OpenBIM allows for a greater flow of information going beyond peer-to-peer processes. Regardless of the software vendor, OpenBIM enables seamless exchange between different BIM softwares while ensuring access to the data at any given time. In that sense, BIM assets can now live beyond their typical use and safely lay dormant until their next potential use for demolition, deconstruction, or material salvaging. To ensure the feasibility of deconstruction and material reuse, it must begin at the design phase. Considering certain trends of closed cycle of use and reuse in the construction industry, it will be assumed that future construction will feature some degree of feasibility regarding design for deconstruction. Certain on-site challenges related to demolition and deconstruction practices can potentially be alleviated with the use of BIM, which is typically implemented during the design, construction, and operational phase. BIM models must be prepared for deconstruction with data on end-of-life behavior of building products, such as degree of reusability and recyclability. In the paper BIM Uses for Deconstruction, an activity theoretical perspective on reorganizing end-of-life practices, Vandenberg, Vordrich, and Andrians are suggesting 3 new BIM uses for deconstruction: 3D existing conditions analysis, reusable elements labeling, and 4D deconstruction simulation. These additional features will prove useful within the context of the OpenBIM platform. Mining virgin materials is energy intensive, and much of this material flows to cities in the shape of buildings and consumer products. This urban ore, as described by Thomas E. Goodell in the Prospects for Urban Mining, can provide an alternative to mining new materials. Materials that do not require intensive reprocessing, such as masonry, ceramic tiles, wood, glass, and pure metals, can easily be repurposed. Gradel also touches on the timing of the stock availability for mining, given that buildings are typically not demolished within at least 50 or 75 years. Urban mining or material salvaging can also take place in renovation and small-scale demolition projects. European legislation, for instance, places material reuse as the preferred method for waste management. However, in the UK, only 1% of the waste generated by construction and demolition is reused. Reuse often finds itself at odds with heavily subsidized recycling programs, giving very little economic incentive for material reuse. The Rota Group in the UK compiled an online repository for over 60 businesses involved in the salvage industry. At opolis.eu, the aim is to facilitate reclaimed material exchange and connect different initiatives across Europe. Opolis is mostly focused around existing shops, scrapyards, and workshops with a sizable operation. In most cases, salvage companies have to outperform qualities of new materials by generating value beyond economics, thus only appealing to a specific type of customers. As opposed to Opolis, this project aims at pinpointing sources of materials that are ready to be reused directly from demolition sites. In other words, to encourage reuse as is, to significantly reduce labor and cost. The act of demolition can potentially turn into a practice of careful selective deconstruction, where the deconstructor is the one actively seeking for materials to reuse for their own project. Throughout the classical era, the practice of spolia was widespread and consisted of repurposing marble components from old buildings into new construction. The value of used material must become a fundamental conversation in architecture in order for reuse to become ubiquitous again. Up until the Industrial Revolution, the reuse of building materials was common practice, but within our current economic model, it has trouble regaining its place. The goal of the Urban Mining Catalogue is to introduce a system that can respond to some of the challenges of previous initiatives by bridging gaps and enabling a better flow of materials within urban environments. Through the use of open BIM, concepts of deconstruction, and existing networks of salvage companies, reuse as a practice could be reinstated and take part in the larger discussion around circular economy and climate change.